You are listening to the Savage FINcast, episode 40, A Lot of Happy Accidents, an interview with Erik Larsen.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, the show that always fails to keep a promise. I am Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
And unfortunately, our friend Raven is currently lost in Dimension X and will not be with us this month. He's
Poor Raven.
Yeah, he's got stuff going on. He's moving both home and web servers and has got a ton of stuff to deal with right now.
Is he gonna throw up little death seed babies?
Oh, now I get what you're saying. Yeah, that'd be funny if he comes back and like murders us all. Yes, we are back with another special episode. We are going to later on have our own favorite Erik Larsen on to talk about not only the Free Comic Book Day issue, but 203 and 204. So it's
and a bunch of other crap,
bunch of other crap. So we're gonna have a jam-packed episode. So we are gonna try to streamline this. We've got absolutely no news to speak of. So we're
just gonna get you to the goods.
Yes, so we're gonna go straight to Craig's favorite section, FINteresting Conversations. Take it away, Craig.
FINteresting Conversations, a segment where we pose a selected listener question to the group and have a roundtable discussion about it. Remember, send your questions and opinions to savagefincast@gmail.com. Everyone who submits their opinion to either last episode's question or submits a new question or both will be entered into a drawing to win a limited edition Malcolm Dragon t-shirt designed by our one and only Raven Perez, as long as he finds his way out of Dimension X. For this episode, we had Guy LeMay write in, and his question that was posed to our roundtable, which consists of me and you, Jim, is, do you guys want to see all of the girls have Malcolm Dragon's kids? That would be crazy. 3 kids at once. What are your thoughts? Thanks again for an awesome podcast.
Certainly would be crazy.
So that would be Tiara,
Maxine, and Angel.
Yeah, and I guess we should say at this point, if you haven't read the Free Comic Book Day issue, you might not want to be listening to this podcast, or you might want to hold on to it because it will be spoilers, because we're going to ask questions to Erik all about the Free Comic Book Day issue. So anyway, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I think that would be an interesting twist. I'm not so sure it would be long-term sustainable to have 3 more Chosen One kids, plus Barry, plus all of Dragon's and Lorella's kids. It's a lot of Dragon kids, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. My prediction is that Tiara's bluffing or something. I predict that Angel either loses the kid or it's Daredevil's. And that Maxine and Malcolm will have a child.
Yeah.
I think that's how it's going to end up. I think there's going to be a lot of build-up, and I also think I'm going to be absolutely wrong because I never, ever guess anything right when it comes to Dragon subplots. But that's what I'm guessing.
That's a safe guess. I don't think Tiara's lying, and a lot of people are saying that she's definitely being manipulative, but I don't think she's lying because she didn't lie to Frank about the baby. I don't suspect she'd lie to Malcolm about the baby.
Oh, that's right. She does have a child already with Frank Jr. Yeah. Crazy.
That said, I think what could happen to her is that she doesn't listen to Malcolm, and maybe she pays for it.
Gotcha. I don't think Eric's gonna want to saddle Angel with a kid.
I don't know. I think anything's possible. She does have a trip to Dimension X in the near future. Who knows whether that's how that may affect things.
Just dump the kid off in Dimension X. It worked out for Malcolm, didn't it?
Worked out for, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Once these kids are born, there's another Dark Lord kicking around somewhere, and someone's kidnapping dragon babies.
Oh, and there's another angel somewhere that could take care of the kid.
Anything's possible, I suppose. I think being Daredevil's kid might. I don't know. I still want her to be with Daredevil as my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that all three of them having a chosen one child would be interesting, but I don't think it's likely.
Gotcha. Well, that's that.
That's that. This table is rounded.
Guy, send your information over to us at SAVAGEFINCAST@gmail.com, and we'll get you your Malcolm Dragon t-shirt
as soon as possible.
Thanks for listening, and again, SAVAGEFINCAST@gmail.com if you want to chime in about this question and have your own opinion, or if you want to send us a new one. Feel free to do so. We look forward to it.
We also have actually a piece of fan mail.
Cool.
Amazing, I know.
People listen to us?
Apparently.
Besides Guy?
Andrew, oh dang it. I'm going to mess up your name, dude. I'm sorry. D'Entremont. Andrew D'Entremont. That's what I'm going to stick with. He says, "Hey guys, I was just listening to your latest cast and thought I'd put my 2 cents regarding Fountainhead. I think it was Craig who was scoffing, he said, at the idea of water being used as a weapon. But I think it is a totally legitimate weapon. Have you ever seen a water jet cutter? They're used for cutting through solid metal. Something tells me that if Fountainhead had connected properly, Malcolm could have lost an appendage. I'm also digging on all the water towers Erik has been including in the backgrounds lately. When I got a commission from him in New York City Comic-Con last year, I specifically requested that the background have lots of water towers. I'd like to think I may have had some small influence on his newfound love of water towers. Anyway, enjoying the
This guy really likes water.
Yeah, keep them coming." And then he attached a nice his commission sketch from Erik from, I assume, the New York Comic-Con, which has dragon and at least 6 or 7 water towers. Excellent.
People request some wacky things for commissions.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Well, yes, I did scoff about it, and now I'm eating my own words, I guess. You are right. Water could be a pretty powerful weapon. I still think it's a pretty silly weapon.
Not so much coming out of their face.
Is that like tears? It comes out of his face?
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right. Well, I can see that. I guess I shouldn't have made as much fun of it.
I don't know. I think while it's true that, water jet cutters can cut metal, that's very, very tightly shot water, where Fountainhead looked more like a fire hydrant going off.
Well, I think it's even worse that you guys didn't even realize it was water.
Yeah.
So, there.
There's that too. We're all embarrassed about something.
Well, thanks for writing in, Andrew.
Yes, thanks. We do enjoy getting letters when, the first in 4 years. Well, that's not true. We get plenty of.
Yeah.
Especially
we get hundreds, and we just we only have time to read one or two.
Shovel them into the furnace. There's just so many of them.
We only have time to read 1 or 2, so yeah, that's the way it goes. I'm sorry for you 98 other people.
So, yep, we're gonna get right into the meat of this episode. We are gonna get going with Erik Larsen.
Let's get to it.
So we are joined with our good friend and idol and hero, Erik Larsen.
Good Lord!
Sorry, I gotta build you up before we tear you down.
Thanks for joining us, Erik.
All right, sure. Hey, thanks for having me.
It's been a while since you've been on last. We had you back when 200 came out back in December, so we thought it'd be a good time to catch up.
All right, sure. Why not? What the hell?
A lot of exciting things happened over the last 6 months. Big one, of course, is the Savage Dragon Legacy Free Comic Book Day issue. How'd that go off on your end? I mean, did it seem successful? Did you get a lot of feedback?
It's hard to know because there was no like, hey, letters page right in here kind of thing. So in terms of actual reader response, in terms of getting mail, there wasn't that much of it. So in terms of that, that's the usual gauge as well. People are writing in or they're not or whatever. And so it was like, wait a minute, maybe I should have put the letters page thing in there.
So you didn't even put your email on the inside front cover anywhere? Or?
No, I really did nothing. It was just, hey, this is a comic. It's here it is. I don't even recall there being any kind of intro or anything. I may have just screwed the pooch on that one.
But I think it was a good issue in terms of you got a lot of information through, and it didn't seem kind of stilted at all.
Well, that was the attempt. I'm kind of too close to it. On my end, it was like, I don't know, man, that seemed a little stilted. But hopefully that's how it came across to other people.
Well,
right.
Just go, all right.
Well, sure, I did have a friend of mine read it cold, and I recorded it for the FINcast, and he seemed to have gotten into it just fine without any particular hangups. The backup he had trouble with because that had a lot of like details that went over his head, but the actual main story, straightforward as far as he could tell.
Okay,
that's
awesome. Yay him.
So you got a few new baddies in this issue. These guys that we're gonna see around, this Wrath character,
especially Craig's favorite Hose Face or
Fountainhead.
Fountainhead, yeah, I like those dudes.
I got that.
It's always interesting to just kind of, designing characters on the fly like that.
Yeah.
Because I never work anything out, almost never. And so it's always like, all right, let's try something here. I had the name Fountainhead kind of coming into it, so it's like, all right, I kind of like that as a name for a dude. But other than that, I wasn't really sure visually how that was going to work out until I did it. And then it was like, all right, well, that's pretty cool. And I just kind of whether or not they show up is really dependent on how good they look.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I like that guy. That guy's gonna last 15 minutes. He's done.
Are you telling me you haven't developed a whole backstory for the clown mask guy?
Scarecrow.
I'm just saying that Soundstorm came and went for good reason. Sometimes you just are like, I'm designing a that was not good.
Soundstorm. Okay. Was that a one-off?
That was like a one-off.
The guy with the big ears, or
yeah, he was like in issue, I think 24 or 26. One of those where I was just, I'm gonna draw a million guys just to draw a million guys and not have a million guys going into it, but I'm just gonna fill this up with weird stuff. And then kind of come in afterward and go, I can make something of this and this and this, and this guy's got to go.
Well, it seems like an effort, at least in the Free Comic Book Day, to make some kind of distinct baddies as opposed to the kind of ugly, unlimited type mutant, kind of generic mutants, which you had on the original Free Comic Book Day cover, I believe.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I wanted to have it be something where you could look at it later on and go, oh look, these few cool things came out of this, so that's neat.
Yeah.
There were definitely things where when I was writing and drawing it, where I was actually thinking it was going to fall into place in the regular series earlier than it's going to end up falling into place. So there will be some dialogue adjustment when this actually runs as an issue of Savage Dragon.
Okay. I was going to ask, how far away do you think this is going to be? So it's going to be like...
it'll be 211.
That is quite a way.
Initially, I was the plan was for it to come right after Malcolm graduated, and then, but then I was like, well, he's a cop. If he's a cop, would he necessarily be running off to Dimension X to deal with Mr. Glum? And that kind of seemed like that's a dangling thing that's been sitting there forever. Do I just never address that? Do I have Mr. Glum eventually just show up? He's a dude who took over the world at one point. Are we just going to let him continue to be in Dimension X with this alternate version of Angel? Is that just he's fine there? Let's just let it go at that. Or do I address that, have him go in there and deal with that in some way? And then if it's like, okay, well, if I'm dealing with that in some way, then dialogue between Dragon and Malcolm, they kind of talk about that a little bit, and it's not gonna work so well,
right?
If that hasn't happened.
That makes sense.
So,
I mean, the other interesting thing now that you bring that up with it being in 211 is that, I mean, as we know in the issue, I believe it was the Free Comic Book Day where we see, his girlfriend Maxine is knocked up. So that's actually going to be, that'll be mentioned in the book really, really soon, because there's no point in having that be any kind of a
mystery,
a cliffhanger, because it's already out there,
Right.
And I did mention when we looked at this book that she looked pretty far along in the Free Comic Book Day. So 211 seems like a good enough time to get her that developed.
Yeah. There's that. There's all sorts of stuff always comes around where you just go, crap, that didn't work. But you do the best you can with it, and hope nobody sweats it too much. When the problem gets to be when the book kind of slips out of schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
And suddenly you go, oh, she's been pregnant now for, more than enough time.
Well, yeah, and you have the real time thing going.
Yeah.
So.
And that is definitely where it comes and wreaks havoc on just my own sanity.
So so I guess that's going to kind of screw things up a little bit, because if you look at some of your covers coming up, you have like Malcolm at prom and graduation, which now with the real time, that's going to be a little bit off, I suppose.
No, it absolutely is. I'm sitting there trying to finish up this stupid proms thing now. And it's like, well, proms don't happen in July or August. They happen way earlier than that. So the book is already off course.
Does that bother you, or do you?
It drives me up the wall.
Does it really?
Wasn't it just Christmas though? It's okay.
Well, it's like my Christmas was mentioned in like 3 issues in a row. It's like, do these all take place right around Christmas? That's even if you're spending a week, it's still like, that's 3 months worth of stuff all crammed into, just doesn't work. But you just end up having to grin and bear it. One of the things that I didn't mention in, I think 204, was basically that there are adventures that Malcolm has that don't make it into the comic.
Yeah, definitely.
And I that was kind of something that I think needs to be addressed to a certain degree. That there's just no way that we can see his every waking moment. The comic as we read it is really the highlights reel of what goes on in his life.
His less sexy adventures.
Yeah, it's less sexy adventures. This stuff that you go, okay, that we don't really need to see that. But there's also going to be there's also the implied other stuff that characters can meet between panels if need be. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where Malcolm's at school and he's talking to kids, and you go, we haven't even really met that kid.
Yeah.
Yet they're talking as though they're pals. Do we need to have an introduction to every single kid? It gets a little awkward and cumbersome to have every single person be, oh, hi, how's it going? I'm Malcolm Dragon, and this is kind of what I'm all about.
Right.
You know? And so a certain amount of that, I just kind of go, screw it. There's stuff that may not be that important at the time when they're introduced.
Well, and I think we get that on a lot of, even since 200, you've introduced a lot of new villains, and it seems like Malcolm kind of knows their name and kind of knows about them already. And as a reader, we kind of understand, he's been working with the police for a while now, so he's most likely come across these guys, and we don't need an origin of every bad guy. And you really haven't done much of that except for some main guys, or you've given them origins, a decade later or something like that, which I think is good. I think sometimes people get too hung up on that stuff.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
So one of the things with some of these newer issues and now with Malcolm on the force is that we're starting to see some established police officers, like Jordan Gordon, who's kind of showing up.
Yeah.
Frank Jr. Is that something you're kind of going out of your way to reestablish kind of a
Yeah, there's some of that, and some of it is just there's been a few different guys who I'll have drawn in backgrounds here and there, just when cops show up.
Right.
It'll just be, okay, these will be the guys who always seem to be, palling around together or whatever. I like to have there be some kind of sense of familiarity with some of those characters. But it doesn't always, it doesn't always matter. Sometimes it's who cares? It doesn't matter. But other times it's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's always fun to have like those Howard Neisman characters, or what's his name, Vic, or
Vic Nixon, or Phil Ford, or any of those guys where you just go, oh, I know that guy, or I know what that guy's about, and just when somebody opens his mouth, that oh yeah, that guy's an idiot,
right.
Or that guy's this way or that way, and it just becomes a better read for people who've been reading it for a while, and for people who don't, you kind of just get used to the program in that regard.
Right. So one thing I forgot to ask, and we kind of went over it, was when you reprint this Free Comic Book Day as a regular issue, I know the dialogue's going to change. Is there going to be anything else in it, like a backup, or have you thought about that far into it? Or, I mean, something for someone that's already read the Free Comic Book Day to...
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there's always some kind of backup there, for the most part. So there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
I haven't really determined exactly what that will be just yet.
New cover.
I got time.
Will it have a new cover, you think?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, the Free Comic Book Day for a lot of it is just kind of your way of getting newer readers kind of into it, but there was also some pretty new revelations for old-time readers, especially seeing the kind of dragon babies, or the Krillian babies, however you want to talk to them about. I mean, is this something where, and maybe, I'm sure you're not going to answer this because it's probably for a reader to find out, but guys like Fountainhead working for the Vicious Circle, or is this a whole different thing going on here?
I don't know yet.
It's about what I expected. Erik Larsen,
a lot of times it really just kind of comes around when it comes around. It's like nobody has a secret identity until they tell somebody their secret identity, sort of thing.
Right.
And I know that can be frustrating for people who are like who want to know that sort of thing, but it's not always that worked out hate to admit.
I think it's good that I love subplots, and that's a huge part of Savage Dragon through the years. So it'll be interesting to find out as we go along.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'll be going back and rereading the crap out of that issue once it comes time to put it in place, because there's going to have to be some adjustment that goes on there.
So, other longtime reader Easter egg, no, wrong word. Lightning powers are back. What made you decide to bring them back?
It was definitely something that differentiated him from his father.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, okay, what the hell? But why don't I just have more foes be more invulnerable to that, rather than have it that he just doesn't have this ever. But also part of that was I didn't want the lightning powers themselves to be this legacy thing where he's got them and now his kids are going to have them and their kids are going to have it and stuff like that. So really the idea was, I'll take the powers away from him. He can get girls pregnant. Now he can get his powers back, and his kids don't have lightning powers.
Oh, nice. I didn't even think about it that way.
That's a clever workaround.
Yeah, I do feel like it was something of a cheat, but it was like, all right, this is going to make it so that this works, and we don't have this thing. If it's, everybody's got lightning powers forever, and that just becomes another part of being a Savage Dragon guy. It's like, I don't really want that.
So was that something that you had thought ahead of time? Like, it wasn't like a spur of the moment thing, like, hey, I missed the lightning powers, I want to bring them back. It was always kind of in your mind that you were going to bring them back.
No, it's never anything is in my mind. It's always like, oh yeah, but wait a minute, this will work. It's like, it's just happens to work out that way, and then it's a lot of happy accidents, and this is all stuff I should never be saying to anybody.
At this point,
Kirkman's always giving me shit about that. He's always saying, no, everything's with intent. You have to let people think that you've got it all figured out.
Yeah, there you go.
He wants to think that you made it up on the fly. It was like, yeah, but I did.
Do you still talk to Robert Kirkman often?
It's usually when things come up. It's not necessarily everyday kind of thing, but when he reads a Twitter thing, or I read one of his, or something goes on, you go, hey, what the hell is that all about? Often it's him texting me going, hey, if you ever want to sell that. It's like,
now he's got the money to buy it all.
Yeah, no, he's bought a bunch of original art over the years. So
yeah, you guys ever bounce ideas off each other for your books or anything like that? Like, I know Invincible is in the same vein as Dragon. Not a lot.
Yeah. I've got my circle. He's got his circle in terms of that.
Yeah.
When we're together at a show, there'll be some of that.
Yeah.
But it'll mostly be sharing rather than, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah, yeah.
If there's something that I'm thinking of doing that is completely insane, usually there'll be somebody or other that I'll go, does this strike you as completely insane, before I go and do it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I think of everybody out there now, I figure at this point, with as many issues as Invincible has out, and as close in tone as it is to Dragon, he's kind of the closest kind of comic creator on your wavelength. Even though he's not an artist, he's just a writer, but still.
Yeah. Well, he draws actually.
He does.
He designed a lot of the characters that were in capes, and designed some. At least did a first pass on some of the characters in Invincible.
Yeah, yeah.
Back when Capes was a wrestling comic.
Well, whatever it is.
Anyway, I was going to actually, speaking of Invincible and crazy things, they got that Invincible reboot coming up, which in a lot of ways seems like his take on like the alternate reality type story, like Savage World. It just
I really haven't gotten any information about that at all.
Yeah.
So he hasn't shared that with me. So if it's awesome, I hope it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it will be. Invincible is always a great read. It's one of those books I read in the car before I get home when I'm at the comic shop.
Glad somebody's reading something like that. Because I used to be that way with things, and it's been a while.
Yeah,
it kind of bothers me that it has been a while.
Yeah. What do you right now with the current books now? What are some of the books that give you that feeling like you want to know?
There's nothing that really gives me that.
Yeah.
That really gets me like, oh, I need to read this minute.
Yeah, right.
There's stuff that I still enjoy Invincible a whole lot, but and I that's kind of a weird one because actually with those books, with Invincible and with Savage Dragon, we see those from each other before you see them.
Right.
Because we proofread each other's books.
Yep.
So we're always like, okay, what's going on here and what's happening there. So there's some of that.
Yeah. I just feel like Invincible is kind of feels like it's the last book of an era in terms of long-running superhero books. You don't get that much anymore. If you want your fix that's not Marvel or DC, it feels like it's between Savage Dragon and Invincible, where you have that rich history of characters.
They're relaunching Amazing Spider-Man.
Really? Yeah. What a shock!
Shocker!
Shock follows shock.
What's your take on all that Marvel stuff? Have you seen some of those new titles? It just seems like they're just throwing random people together on team. Like seems like 10 different Defender teams or something. Like I have no idea what's going on.
Defenders TV show's coming out. Got to push those Defenders.
Yeah, it's whatever.
It's just so weird.
All those books, all those books, they need to make money, and that's kind of what it is. It's you would think that Disney, being Disney, might just go, hey, it doesn't matter if the books make money. This is all, seed for TV shows and whatever. So have fun.
Lost leader.
I don't know.
Make it a lost leader and just.
But they don't play that lost leader game. It's like these books need to make money, and if they don't make money, then these books don't exist.
Right.
Which it seems kind of weird to me. But that would be the case.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they think they can just get to that entry crowd through cartoons and whatnot now or something instead of comics.
Well, Marvel comics are sort of hip right now, or at least Marvel characters. I don't know. For as best I can tell, Marvel is being fairly successful right now with a lot of their initiatives. So they got to be doing something right.
Something's working.
I don't know. So. I read the Entertainment Weekly article, and I know, Eric, you reposted some of Kirkman's statements on Twitter. One of them saying, if we keep on our current trajectory, meaning Image, we'll overtake DC in less than 5 years. Is that something you think will really happen, or you think that's wishful thinking? Or
I think you look at it and go, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But do I think? It would take some stuff happening,
like DC continuing to eat itself alive.
Yeah, it would take DC continuing to be DC Comics, which isn't impossible because they've been DC Comics for an awful long time and done the same stupid stuff again and again. Mm-hmm. So it would definitely take that, and then it would. But kind of the thing for us is that it's happening.
Yeah.
It's just those people are getting frustrated with working at DC, and they keep going, well, where else is there, and where can I go where where I'm not going to get screwed, you know?
And I think we're seeing that more and more because you look like back maybe 10 years ago, and Image was kind of like a feedstock for the big two. Like they would go and pick off guys that were starting, like Bendis and Kirkman and Remenda and the Luna Brothers, Tradmore and those guys. And now it seems like there's been a shift where some of these bigger names that were working at the big two are kind of, it's like a 93 all over again, where you're getting the Vaughns and Morrison and Brubaker and Ellis and Millar kind of just saying, screw it, let's just go to Image.
It's just easier. It's kind of nice that there's no BS with this stuff, and it's like you can just do this and everybody's happy and it's fine.
I think it also helps that Image itself has had a lot of hits over the last 5 or 6 years, and so Image itself is a hot brand. So having the Image eye is like a draw now, as opposed to just kind of being the other publisher.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think's kind of been that big? What's caused the shift over? I see it as kind of starting when you took over as publisher. The wave kind of changed over, and it's just kind of
snowballed.
It's snowballed every year. It seems like.
But I think really the probably certainly Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But when you get suddenly, I think Brian K. Vaughan coming over.
You get Brian K. Vaughan.
I think that one was when people go, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this weird homegrown thing where it's Image guys doing their own thing. It's other guys can do this stuff and it's fine.
And they're able to get artists that, some of these writers can get artists that can keep up with them, and I think that's key. I think once you start, taking too long between issues, you start to lose the fan interest. And I think Image Comics have, the creators have done a good job lately of keeping the output going.
I think standardizing the skip month has really helped a lot of that, because almost all of your successful books have a month they take off to get caught up, and they schedule it instead of trying to make up ground when they get behind.
Yeah. I need to do that.
Well, I think that was a lot of, the success that Kirkman had, though, was, just dropping artists when they couldn't keep up or switching off. We saw that with Walking Dead with Tony Moore to Allred, and Corey Walker on Invincible to Otley, who's just become a beast. That guy is amazing.
Yeah, that's helped for sure. And then also just they're good guys, and the guys that they chose to replace them with, those are good guys too. And so those books didn't really miss a beat, which is nice for them, because that's important.
Charlie Adler's a workhorse.
Yeah, he is. And both of them also, when they started to go, geez, they both decided at some point, we'll just use an inker because that'll speed up the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in both cases that it ended up helping tremendously, at least, schedule-wise, it helped a lot.
Well, you had a good conversation, I think it was on Twitter, about that too, how, back in the day, artists, it was just a job, so you just kept pumping them out. It didn't have to be perfect, and not that I don't think is it Allred from not Allred, what's his name from Walking Dead?
Charlie Adlard?
Adlard, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff, it's good and it flows and it's good art, but he's not trying to be like Arthur Adams and have everything perfect.
He's not laboring over it like a crazy person.
And I think that's what we need.
He's really telling stories, and that's I think you look at books like Preacher, and you're not sitting there necessarily just drooling over the artwork. It does what it needs to do, but it's telling the story that needs to be told.
That was Steve Dillon, right?
Yeah, that was Steve Dillon, but it's a same kind of thing where you just go, oh, okay, this guy's really trying to tell these stories really well, rather than this guy's trying to dazzle me with his stuff. I don't know, it's different.
And then you just have guys like Otley who just are just freaking talented. It's insane.
Yeah.
But he didn't start like that either. I mean, he was almost
this first couple issues were pretty shaky.
They were.
Yeah.
And
I don't know about this move, Robert, and then suddenly he figured it out, and then it was like, holy crap!
I read some of his like early self-published stuff through like Digital Webbing Presents about like a bike courier. That stuff had like a really exaggerated cartoony style. So when he came on Invincible, it took me a while to jive with him, but he's definitely the artist on the book now.
Yeah,
he's amazing. So, I mean, and just to tie this all in, you kind of, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, Eric, the Kirkman-Bendis debate in 2008 at the Baltimore Comic-Con when they kind of went back and forth versus, creator-owned versus working for the big two. And it seems like a lot of what Kirkman had said is ringing true for a lot of these, bigger names.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see it all happening and unfolding.
Yeah. It just at a certain point, it just makes more sense to own your own stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It just does. It's just, come on, man. I mean, how do you even argue the other point? No,
right.
Well, I think the other point is you get paid on a monthly basis.
It's a safer bet.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. No, it's true. It's a guaranteed whatever, but at the same time, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work at McDonald's for the rest of my life because that's a guaranteed paycheck, and starting my own restaurant's really risky. It's like, okay, that's a hell of a life to choose for yourself.
Well, as a partner in Image, I know you're not publisher anymore, but do you still actively kind of look at new talent and push anything towards Image or try to get some other guys that you used to maybe pal around?
Not that much, no.
No. Okay.
No, it's really it's not my deal.
Yeah.
Let those guys who want to do that. And I mean, if something comes up and somebody approaches me and says, "Hey, I want to do stuff there. Here's my stuff," I'll pass it along if I think it looks all right. But
yeah.
It's not my gig. And I really, as soon as I was no longer the publisher, I made that pretty clear that it's like, this isn't, I'm not going to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Did you have any involvement in getting Erik, how do you say his last name, Canete or Canet? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't. I wish. I mean, I think he's great.
Yeah, I know you always kind of championed his work and
yeah, I was pleased as punch when he came through and was doing some stuff.
Yeah.
When I'll make intros when it's fine to make intros, that was one where they had stuff was already going on, so it's like, all right, cool.
I gotta tell you, I love that Run Love Kill book he's doing, but those covers are killing me. It's like, I know you always say about like flashy cover, trying to get someone's attention. It's like, man, you got a guy like Erik Canete doing the interiors, and then you have these.
It's really, I know that it's probably this will be really distinctive, and nobody else is doing anything like this, which is absolutely true. The problem I have with it is when I see issue 2, I'm still mentally going, do I have this?
Yeah, it's all white. It's the same, like.
Yeah. And it's like, God, that's not it's not. I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah.
No. But I wasn't part of that conversation either.
Gotcha. So let's go back to the issue. We kind of drifted a little off course, but it was some good conversation. We kind of did Free Comic Book Day to death. Let's talk about 203 a little bit, if you don't mind.
All right.
One of the things I think I was amazed by was, and this is not necessarily in 203, but kind of ties in with it, was how quick the whole saga with Dart and kind of Mako's blood and how she, I thought that was going to be a key thing, a key plot of her being like half shark, and it was like seemed like it was done in an issue.
It it can be or it can't. It's kind of a lingering thing now where she has the opportunity to get it back.
Yeah, I see that.
It kind of set it up that it's there if she wants to do it.
Mhm.
And part of her old blood was tying in with the little wise guys and that sort of thing, which is immortality.
Right, right.
So if you're sitting there going, all right, I gotta take the shark powers, which help me escape from really kind of anything, along with immortality, it's kind of a tempting thing, I would think.
Well, and the cool thing was kind of like the dichotomy between her kind of the former hero Dart and the villain Mako, which killed the former hero. So she's like a mix of those two kind of characters, which was kind of a neat twist on it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's gone forever by any stretch. I think if nothing else, she's got to hit more of that kid blood if she still has a bunch of it sitting around.
Right.
If nothing else, she's got to get the immortality back. But yeah, I think, but basically, it's like I don't really like having this in there. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really going to come down to what feels right for the character when the time comes.
Gotcha.
That's often how things are with me, where not necessarily plotting things out way far in the future. I kind of think of their lives as I think of anybody's life, where all of us will go, well, this is where I hope to go. This is what I hope to do. These are what my plans are. And sometimes my plans happen, and sometimes my plans fall through.
I think that works out well for the reader, though, because you never get a point where you get a bunch of readers that have guessed, the ending of your plot or whatever.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just like me guessing what you're going to do tomorrow. I have no idea, and that's kind of how it should be, I think, in a way for these characters, is you should just be going, I'm not sure where he's going with that. I'm not sure what that character is going to do.
Was reattaching Melvin Belko's head one of those? I don't. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, I just kind of want him to get increasingly more fucked up over time, so that every time we see him, he's just got some other weird thing going on, and just see where I can take that and see how just screwed up he can get.
I was happy to see him back, because it's like you hear Belko, and finally we got to meet the guy behind it, and it's like, oh, he's gone as soon as you met him, and I was like, oh, he's back. All right, that's cool.
I also think that it's easier and more acceptable to bring back characters like that than it would be to bring back somebody who go, wait a minute, that guy was totally dead, and I think it's kind of villains are always easier to bring back, or some characters that are kind of iffy in terms of their moral stuff, than if I killed off.
Yeah.
If I kill Dart, and then suddenly, the original Dart, and suddenly had the original Dart showing up again, I think people would be like, wait a minute.
Feels like a cheat.
That feels like a super cheat. That's not right.
Yeah.
Whereas that kind of goofy character, you don't feel like it's such a weird dodge like that.
So let's talk a little bit about Allison Summers, the new Dart. I think, we might have some new listeners with the new Free Comic Book Day, and people that might be interested in learning a little bit more. I know with the new direction, you haven't really focused more on the origin, and there's no real need to. But so Allison Summers is the niece of Jill August, who died from a punch by Mako. Her grandfather, correct me if I'm wrong, her grandfather's Captain Marvel, who was kind of, what's that?
Sergeant Marvel.
Sergeant Marvel. Sergeant
no.
Marvel, who's like the, your version of Batman, like a great detective.
Batman, yeah, like the dorkiest possible Batman.
You mean the most awesomest
And just so for either longtime readers or new readers, how did Allison Summers get from where she was as just, the niece of the original and the granddaughter of Sergeant Marvel to the villain? And what is she looking for as a villain? What does she want?
I think all villains want just to control and just to be, to run everything. It's like, what was Overlord's end game? It's like, that was his end game. His end game was to be the guy who's in charge of the vicious circle, And I think with her, it's that she's really, she's power hungry in a very real way. And then it's like, this is my opportunity. I can run things. I can be in charge, and there's nobody who can stop me.
With Overlord and Antonio Seghetti, I seen him as he was a mobster, and the freaks came in and they were getting too powerful, so he had the suit built, and he had to keep up with.
So he was a boss by necessity. He had to. That's
I think with Allison, it's more of a.
She's just a bad seed.
It's more of a, I think there are people who are just assholes.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't need to be that much more than that. There are certainly people who are out there doing terrible things, and you go, well, why are they doing these terrible things?
Well,
with Allison, we can look at her parents and go, well, her they're alcoholics and they're at each other's throats, and they certainly didn't like each other very much. And it was she kind of grew up in a somewhat terrible situation, and then she got out of it by essentially finding out Sergeant Marvel's real identity and then blackmailing him in a way to get it so that she could be trained by him. And then once trained by him, she kind of got him out of the way.
She's a bit of a psychopath. She is
a bit of a psychopath, for sure. But I also, I think about like the Spider-Man movies and going, did it help to get Electro's origin? Did it help that he was a quasi good guy and suddenly he had something happen to him that made him into a bad guy? I don't think most people do that. I don't think most people have that change in them where they were like, I was totally a nice person, and then one
pivotal moment,
awful day, now I'm a dickhead. I think that's unrealistic. I think most people kind of come out fully formed, and they're either good people or bad people, just coming out into the world. And as time goes on, those traits get emphasized one way or the other.
That's a good point.
That's my take on it. I've in my dealing with people, I just find that that's pretty much the case. You're true to what you are.
Yeah.
And so she was disturbed when she was young, so now she's still disturbed as an adult. She's just still working her way through, whatever next level of being in control of her life is, and it just happens to be being in charge of the vicious circle right now.
Yeah.
It's hilarious when you look back and you see that she was like Angel's babysitter for how many issues.
Yeah. It's the timeline is really screwy when we get from this world to that, because I'm not really sure that there is any reason that she would have been babysitting Angel
in this world,
in this reality.
Right.
Yeah.
So while they can refer to her as their babysitter and know her as that, I don't think she knows herself as being that. And when we do these flashback things, it's like we're actually flashing back to a different world. We're not flashing back to the world as we knew it. When we did that story that had Sexy Beast in it.
You got to wonder if she'd have been just as messed up in the other world as she is in this one.
I'm assuming that her trajectory would have been much the same. And for the most part, I'm trying not to emphasize, hey, it's a different world, and hey, this is this.
Right.
I don't know how many people find that confusing. I don't find it particularly confusing myself.
I stopped worrying about that.
I thrive on that shit. I love alternate takes on the same character. That's why I always love the Savage World arc in general, because I just love seeing one world flip down its ear. I don't know. I thrive on it. That's why I'm really looking forward to the Invincible reboot arc, because that seems to be what it is. And everyone else is going, oh no, reboot, oh no. And I'm going, yes, thumbs up.
I don't know anything about it going into it, so I just hope it's a good funny book. So that's all I'm at.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring this up just because I'm a big fan. What made you decide to depower Bob? Particular plan for Bob?
It just worked for the story.
Yeah.
And the back door was there.
Right.
So I didn't feel like, that this is necessarily something where you go, this has to be this way forever.
Right. He got his powers from like radioactivity or something, right? He's like, I can't.
Well, his mom is similar. It looks similar.
Right.
So the powers are passed on.
So if it's something where powers are passed on, and in our universe, blood is magic.
Blood is magic.
Well, it's there.
Yeah.
So
I guess it sort of segues into a question I've been wondering the last while. Why have you been falling back on blood so much as a cure-all? Just because it makes sense.
It just it's at this point it's been established,
right?
As this is what does this. I think it couldn't get. I think at a certain point it'll be like, okay, enough already. We don't need to see this anymore. And at any point I can just be like, all right, I'm not gonna touch this for 6 or 7 years.
The next Shrinking Ray.
Yeah,
that's not a bad comparison.
You don't want it to be like
it runs its course.
I don't want to wear it out.
Yeah.
So hopefully I don't.
I thought it was cool that Tiara gets her little force field
you mean Maxine?
Watch or bracelet. Maxine. I'm sorry, Maxine. And I think that's a good way of being able to keep her close to Malcolm without having to worry about her getting torn apart.
Getting Debbie Harris.
Yeah. That's something. It's like I do like her an awful lot. Mm-hmm. So part of this stuff is going to be okay. Let's find some ways to keep her alive, because she could be really dead really quickly in this universe, because that's kind of how that works.
Yeah. 203 was kind of a neat issue for long-time readers in a way. I mean, we've seen a lot of new characters come through, and 203 kind of was like, what's, the best of what's left. We get the Rogue Warrior appearance, we get, Killcat and Kid Avenger, we see Arachnid, a lot of old favorites, which we haven't seen in a while. Neutron Bob.
What's kind of interesting about it just in general is that even though these are old villains for us, they're all new villains for Malcolm. He's never met these guys before. They're as far as he's concerned, they're as new as Fountainhead or that frickin' Scarecrow dude, whatever he's called.
Yeah. Well, and Killcat doesn't even know that it's Malcolm. He still thinks
Killcat's
an idiot.
So yeah.
He's great.
He is great.
And then of course we get, Tiara, who I think kind of plays that great villain role. Not necessarily a villain as much as an antagonist, I guess is the way to put it. And I always enjoyed that about like the older Savage Dragon, like comics with Rapture having like the jealous kind of girlfriend type, which is kind of not a super villain, but still a source of consternation for the hero, and it's going to be great to see where she goes. And we know in the next issue she goes to see what's his name, Willie Wilson, or
yeah, fun times ahead.
I know there's times in the old series where you got to the point where there were like too many characters, and I think you got a little
kill happy.
No, not kill. I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say that you kind of reel it in because there's too much going on. But I always enjoy Dragon when there's like a whole ensemble of characters, and you're kind of skipping all over the place and peeking in onto different conversations, and you're running. I think Dragon is the best when it's got like 4 or 5 subplots going, and I think we're kind of building towards that again, especially with where are we going with all these babies and.
Yeah, it just depends on it. It's just a matter of handling it deftly, so people aren't sitting there confused all the time. Because it's the worst part is just when people go, okay, who are these guys and what's this all about and what's going on here? I'm totally lost. You don't want to have there be too much of that. It's not fun for anybody.
But I think you've built on 200 and you got a good, or I should say maybe 193 with Malcolm's new entrance, and it's kind of like a clean slate. And now we're building it back to like getting a lot of good juicy subplots, and it seems like things are ready to explode at the seams, which is always fun.
I'm having a hell of a time for sure.
I have one last question about 203. Is it implied that this is where Malcolm gets his lightning powers back?
Yeah.
With the blood transfusion? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
He hasn't used them yet, but I thought when he says this is the good stuff, I assume he's talking about the blood you foreshadowed at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because he's getting his own blood back.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not his dad's stuff, and he was given it by angels. So it's like, okay, it's back, it's usable.
Well, she even says it. So it's old blood. So if you want your lightning powers back, there you go. So
yeah,
it's definitely stated.
Yeah. So
which brings us into 204, which was a hell of an issue too. And hey, while we're talking about this, one of the questions I had was, are you still drawing twice up or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll be doing that for a while. I got a shit ton of paper. It's this enormous stack of paper that's like I'm not going to go through this quickly by any means. There's just way too much of it. I buy it in pads. It's these huge pads, and then I have to cut them down actually.
Too big.
There ends up being this odd dead space that's on them when you have it that big.
So they're not like A3. What's the word I'm looking for? Ratio. They're a different shape. So
yeah,
cut them down to the right.
They're way wider than they need to be.
Right.
So so rather than I could either have them centered and have this dead space on either side, or I could just cut it down, and I chose to cut it down.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there enough to make bookmarks or strips of scrap paper for sketches?
Yeah, but who gives a shit?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not sitting here going, I'm all out of bookmarks. I don't care. So that's how that goes.
So this issue, there was a little bit of I don't know if you noticed it or saw it, but a little bit of internet flack on the whole abortion kind of dialogue. Did you see any of that? I'm sure you did.
I don't really pay much attention to that.
Good.
In honesty,
I mean,
my take on it is it's not my recommendation or
exactly.
This is these characters talking.
Well, and that's where it seems to come from. Like these people on the internet, they act like this is. They can't understand it's a character talking.
Do you get it? This character is 18 years old, and he doesn't necessarily have all his shit figured out yet.
He's an ignorant teenage boy. That's
it's like he's being insensitive in some ways for sure. But even so, he's also being fucking practical. I mean, honestly, telling somebody, look, this is what happens with this stuff. Look out.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got to have that same conversation with Maxine. It's like, look, okay, this sounds awesome. Let's have some kids, but guess what? Here's the reality that goes along with that. Remember all that crap that I told Tiara that she didn't take so well? Well, guess what? It applies to you as well.
Well, I mean, teenagers say stupid things all the time, and ignorant people say stupid things sometimes. I mean, what makes me think about, like, you know, in the 90s, if we had internet like today, your Howard Neisman character, you would have, you know, all this outrage about the words coming out of his mouth, and it's just a character. He's supposed to be a bigot.
Yeah.
You know, why? I don't understand the outrage.
Well, again, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Who cares? You know, if you want some character saying something else, write your own comic.
Yeah.
You've got that opportunity, and if you can find an audience, good for you. You know, I'm telling my own stories in these, and these are characters, and they're not you.
Yeah. I guess it just bothers me as a reader when it gets bad publicity like that, because this is, you know, it's a book that I love, and it's like, here comes some schmo who's never read anything but seen a panel, you know, taken out of context, ties it to the, you know, the guy writing it. And I've seen that happen on a few things. I think that Airboy comic, like, something happened with that recently.
Yeah, I was just reading about that. I didn't really get detail.
It's like, you know, it's just like, come on. It's so, I like it seems like it just kind of rolls off your back. Like, of you know, you have, Eric, you have a pretty good way of dealing with it. I know the whole thing with you know, what you went through with that Outhouse website and or whatever, the Mary Sue website. It seems like it's easily rolled off your back, and as a reader, it makes me angry, and it's like,
well, the thing too that you have to realize that there are certain people who are never going to be your readers.
Yeah,
that's just the way they are.
Yeah,
this book has existed now for 23 years.
Right.
For somebody who is essentially saying, I've never read this book before in my life, but now I'm really never going to read it. It's like, well, fuck you. You know, really, who gives a shit what you have to say? If
it wasn't for you in the first place.
It wasn't like they're sitting going, wow, I've always wanted to read this book, and now I'm kind of bummed out. It's almost always somebody who's making some bold statement about how this is the way things ought to be and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like this people making arguments about this costume or that costume, whatever, you know? I mean, Jim Lee gave Wonder Woman pants, and then because of internet outrage about that sexist costume that Wonder Woman wears, and then as soon as he did that, then there was another backlash about what the hell is she doing wearing pants? He looks ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
That's not a cool costume. And so then she wasn't wearing pants again.
Yeah, when it's like less than 2% of maybe the readership, or 1% that's actually
or it's just people who just get outraged on stuff, and people do. They just want to have their way and want to say what they want to say, and it's like that's fine. But if you're never going to read a Wonder Woman comic, no matter who does it, then shut up. Who cares?
Yeah. You know?
I think everything is for you is another thing that people have a tough time coming to grips with.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
like I'm never going to read a Harlequin romance. That doesn't mean I'm going to be out there yelling and screaming and saying they should never publish Harlequin romances. Publish them all day long. I don't care. It doesn't affect me one way or the other.
Right. Yeah, no, it seems like it just over the past year just has been real crazy. I don't know. Hopefully it simmers down.
Or just that'll keep things interesting too.
Yeah. So, back to 204, I gotta say, there's this one panel that I thought was one of the coolest panels, and you probably don't have the book in front of you, but you probably know. It's the one with Dart just kicking Killcat in the head.
I love that panel.
That panel is so awesome, and it seems like every kind of, you kind of rework how you draw like long hair every kind of bunch of issues or whatever, and what you're doing with the new Dart's hair, it's just like it's so cool how fluid it kind of like you can feel like it just whipping around when you're reading it, and it's kind of neat the what you're doing there. I just really enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoy drawing her a lot, and there always ends up being inevitably some panel where I'm going, that's cool, and I've never seen it before. I've never seen that, and after I drew it, it's like that just seems like kind of an obvious shot.
Yeah,
it's really straight on, and it's a cool angle, and it's powerful, and yeah, I've never seen anybody do that before, and those are the kind of things where I kind of feel like, oh, okay, this it's still worth doing this stuff. There's still stuff to find. There's still stuff still comes out that I haven't seen or haven't done. I haven't done it all.
Yeah, no, and I think you're really kind of it's like I won't say a renaissance in your work, but like with the new Malcolm character, I think it's really showing in your work that you're really enjoying it. I think on 203, I remember you had posted the panel of Malcolm punching Kid Avenger, and that was like something you had never, a pose you had never done before either, and you were thrilled with that.
It's kind of cool to do this stuff, and where you go, I don't know where this came from, but that's kind of a neat shot or kind of a neat idea, and I that's when I feel like, all right, I'm still okay. Not that I was super concerned, but also I think doing stuff at the bigger size the way I am has kind of opened up some stuff like that I might not have thought of or done otherwise.
Gotcha.
It's kind of interesting, just how having a different space has changed things in a way.
Yeah.
I personally really like the panel where Angel is chucking Malcolm into the sky.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that's got a really good sense of motion and energy to it too.
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
Yeah. Well, I think as a reader, you tend to,
okay, that worked out cool.
You tend to forget how strong she is, so it's good to be reminded. Yeah, she could fling this behemoth, up to the 20th story of a skyscraper.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. I like that where he's just suddenly up in the air. Just different stuff. There's a lot of sort of weird recurring gags. Like every time somebody whacks into a building, it's always spack. I don't know why that is or why that amuses me, but it does. I enjoy it.
The little hand scribbled spack.
Yeah. For whatever reason, it amused me to reuse several people's signs in here. There's a thing towards the end of the issue where they're sitting around in a diner, and that diner is from an issue that John Workman lettered. So when it says diner, that's John Workman's lettering.
Oh yeah.
When they go into Gossip Rag, that lettering is from Tom Warzachowski from one of the Gossip Rag things that was in one of the issues, So it's like, oh, this is kind of this cool thing. I've got all three of these letterers in there, and my terrible SPAC as well. So it's like here's all Savage Dragon letterers represented in this issue.
I think your Boom Pow Tacos makes an appearance. Is it this issue or the issue before?
The issue before, yeah.
Yeah. Haven't seen the toilet paper in a while though.
Yeah. That's been a bit. But yeah, I like those kinds of things. Just little running gags and different character bits and stuff like that. I love writing Maxine. She's just, I like having them going and seeing the Avengers, Age of Ultron, and her just being so enthusiastic about being able to be one of those people that spoils things for everybody else.
Yeah. Getting the tickets.
So
I thought it was real neat to see some of his old Dimension X gang, like well, I guess just Peter and Mark, but always cool to see those guys, which are of course William and Rita's kids. But
from another dimension.
Yeah, and longtime readers still remember that, when those kids were conceived, it was Dragon who was inhibiting William's body. So, I mean, at this point, I don't see how there could ever be an explanation in the book to like Malcolm or anything. There's no one there that, or Dragon that really understands what happened. Will that be a subplot that's ever kind of explained, or is that just a...
I would assume that at some point I'll just get around to it, but I kind of feel like, that I get around to it when I get around to it.
Yeah, well, it's awesome.
Necessarily have to be there, right away. Oh, I got to tie this up.
Yeah, right.
It's like the thing with Wildstar. Jesus, man, how long did it take to pay that one off?
Yeah.
And
it's a cool thing to longtime readers. It's always like, hey, I know why that guy's kind of messed up. In a way, I know how that guy's messed up looking.
Well, it's cool just to have different characters that drop in where you go, wait a minute, I totally recognize that face. I know where that guy's from.
Yeah.
One of those coming up in the next issue where you'll go, oh wait, that guy.
Nice.
What's he doing there?
Don't forget the Johnson twins are also dragon babies.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, but
in a way, it's kind of.
You don't know.
I know. I just found. I don't know. It was just one of those things when there's so many babies, and I just thought, wait a minute, they were also conceived all dragons.
Do they count?
Do they count?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I have to keep planting new generations and new guys in here, or the book doesn't work. The book has to have that thing where there's this constant, these new characters are coming in, and these new characters and these other ones are getting older, and this is happening and that's happening. So that's been fun.
It's cool to see like Darnell and PJ as well. I mean, we hadn't seen them in a while, and
PJ has gotten shorter over he's really tiny this issue. I do this occasionally where I won't actually be referencing things that I've drawn earlier, and then I look back and I go, yeah, he's gotten about a foot shorter than he used to be.
He's like the Gary Coleman of the high.
Well, his gag is that he's immortal, so he doesn't age, right?
Yeah.
So he's always this big.
Well, although I would assume that if he ever got any of the freak out stuff, that he could age.
Yeah.
Because that would be
go through puberty in half a minute.
Yeah, well, it's like, or would he just start aging from that point? And it's sort of a question to anybody. It's like if you had the choice of staying 11 years old forever and being immortal, or aging, what would you go with? And it's like, geez, I don't know. Because it would kind of be cool to be able to live forever. At the same time, living forever at age 10,
not the most ideal.
Well, that kind of brings up a question that I forgot to ask and I was thinking about was, so Dragon's 5'10", and you see him in a lot of side-by-sides of Malcolm. Malcolm looks taller. How tall is Malcolm supposed to be?
He's 6'4".
Oh, wow.
That's quite tall.
Yeah.
So no one's gonna mess up anymore, like.
Yeah. No. All those people who's always dragging way too tall. Now he actually is, and then it depends. Some of these panels he looks shorter than that, but yeah, he's considerably taller than his dad. So he's 6'3", 6'4", something like that.
Cool.
So no longer this tiny little dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, his girlfriend's tiny.
I think everybody is tiny compared to him now, but very
cool. But I wanted to have that. I wanted to have there be some contrast, and that just goes on. One of my sons is taller than I am. The other one is not. But it's just sometimes that happens. Rapture was not short by any stretch. He was, for what 5'8".
She's tall.
Right.
She's taller than Dragon, right?
She is.
No,
She's
Dragon's
got a lot
5'10".
of hair.
Right,
And he's
yeah.
got a fin. But she was fairly tall. She was not taller than he was, but at least in that ballpark. So she's tall for a woman. And then you add that to Dragon, and suddenly it's like, oh, this kid's going to be taller than you are, and that just happens. It's the way that works sometimes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It is neat though to have that. Let's try something different this time around and make them taller.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, in the future, just how Asian looking will Maxine and Malcolm's kid be.
Oh, so it is his kid. You just
Yeah.
giving a sport. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. But she's not. There's nobody else in the mix in that regard. But it'll be, it's just, I don't know. I like playing with this stuff and finding new and interesting things to do with it. I'm still having fun.
Yeah, and that's what's
cool.
important.
Well, would that be like? Well, I guess Malcolm. Well, it'd be so. Malcolm's kid will be like African American, Asian, and alien. It'll be
Yeah.
a mix.
Yeah. I figure that the dragon parts of it kind of don't get diluted, so that they're always going to be as strong as the guy before, because that's kind of how it worked with the alien race.
Right.
Oh, so yeah, I got what you're saying. So it won't be
You know?
like more human than alien. So
Yeah, so we're not going to get to a point where like the
Yeah.
next one's like, oh, I'm only Spider-Man level. The next guy, I guess I'm Daredevil level.
But you could have used that to say like the electric powers just kind of keep getting weaker and weaker over time, where like this next generation is just they little tiny spark. No.
There's not much going on with
you
this.
won't have a little Paul Dragon fin.
Yeah, I guess that would be kind of fun to do. I'm toying with not doing the funky feet next time with the next guy.
Oh, there you go. That would be more of like the human.
It's just okay now that it's 3/4 human being. Maybe
three more toes.
Yeah.
Does that bother you that you made him with only 2 toes afterwards? Or?
Yeah, I kind of shouldn't have.
Well,
There's
cut his legs off enough. Maybe they'll grow back with 5 toes.
Well, why does that bother you? Can I ask that?
I don't know. I guess it's actually it's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird, freaky thing. I don't know.
I kind of liked it in a way because, at least for the original Dragon, even Malcolm, I mean, they're handsome guys, so it's kind of a way to be like, well, he's still got this kind of funky thing about him. It's like,
So you mean the fin on his head isn't enough?
yeah.
I know
It is neat.
Yeah, but I don't really want to get the tiny fin. I don't want to do the Paul Dragon.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Probably for the best.
That's funny. But yeah, and so we get Willie Williams is back in the picture again, who's a great character, kind of takes over for our Richard Richards in a way.
Yeah, he's just local
slime ball.
So yeah, he's a fun guy, and he's back. He'll be back for a little bit, and then he's one of those kind of characters who will be in and out of the book and back and forth, like a lot of characters, where they're in it for an issue or two, and then they're gone, and then they're back again, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I know one thing I was talking to some people about, and we were discussing like costume redesigns, and I talked to Jim about it too before the show, and one of the things with Savage Dragon, you haven't really done many costume designs. You've done a few out of necessity, I think, with like the 2 different angels, just the kind of minor tweaks with the outfits. I think, Brainy Ape, but that was more because Corey Walker redesigned him. Is that something that you just don't ever feel like doing, or just?
Just depends on the character. Some, I think, it's kind of a cool look anyway, and so keep them that way.
Yeah.
Others, like when Dragon was when Emperor Kerr was around. Every time Emperor Kerr showed up, he was wearing different clothes.
Yeah.
But that would have some of the other characters wear the same thing every day.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on the character and how much their visual kind of established their identity.
Remember, he did redesign Mako that one time.
Yeah, that's right. That was pretty cool.
All the shoulder tubes had to go.
He had that weird shoulder pads and the metal stuff going over it at one point, and then there was the
70s kind of
his
jagged
his tiger shark outfit.
Didn't he have like Namor shorts once too?
I'm sure he
did he?
I thought he wore like the Namor like onesie with the chest bared, or I can't even know what it's called.
I know that I know at one point in my pre-published comics he used to wear that was his deal.
Yeah, I think you might have done that too in the newer. I think he probably, of all your characters, have had the most different costume change. And then he had the wife beater and boots. Yeah,
and Vic gave him a costume in Freak Force.
Yeah.
He wore just
who would have thought?
So yeah, he got to have a couple different looks, but also he's very distinctive looking anyway.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
It doesn't really matter what he wears. It's like putting a sweater on the Thing.
Yeah.
You're still going to go, okay, well, that's the Thing because he's got that going on. I could probably switch up Double Header and have him wearing something else, and you'd go, oh, okay.
Well, you did that with
clearly Double Header.
Skullface. He got a couple of redesigns, which were pretty cool. Yeah, so I guess there have been some.
Yeah, it just depends on the characters, and some of them, it's like what I thought I did a pretty good Cutthroat costume. Yeah. I'm not going to come up with a cooler Cutthroat costume. So am I redesigning for the sake of redesigning, and now the characters are going to show up looking lamer than they were?
Yeah, and part of our conversation was, maybe, we see more redesigns in other comics because you have different artistic teams on it. And, like, if you were going to redesign a new costume, why don't you just make a new character? If you're going to put that much effort into, make it a whole new costume, you would just make sense.
Yeah, there's that. It's like I can just do a new guy if I want to do that. So, whatever. I don't know. I could go either way on some of it.
Yeah. You mentioned your sons have. I know I ask you this every once in a while, but have your kids ever kind of taken your book and given it a serious read through and given you any feedback on it?
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Huh? Not least bit interested.
No, and it's kind of I'm fine, totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I kind of like that it's Dad's
thing. Yeah.
My dad works in a paper mill. I don't ask him about what it works like.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. That doesn't bother me in the least.
Yeah.
Usually bothers me more when a relative does read it because it's like shit. I can't get.
Gonna read the sex, like the threesome issue.
Now he's gonna ask some uncomfortable questions. I don't want to have that.
Can I read issue 200?
Or 2 whatever. 202, the follow up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Jeez, really? So whatever.
Has that happened before?
Yeah. Yeah, at one point.
Gosh.
Uh-oh. But whatever, you just go, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what an artist...
This isn't necessarily for you.
Right.
Like everything else. It's like, and that's fine. It's fine for there to be a comic book aimed at a different reader, and this is kind of aimed at somewhat older readers. So if this isn't something, if this is going to make you uncomfortable, maybe you ought to not be one of those guys reading it.
So I had a few more questions before we wrap this up. I think we're getting there on time. I don't know if you have a couple more minutes or...
Sure.
One of the questions is, I know there was talk a while back, maybe a year ago, about the Savage Dragon Companion Volume 2, and I just didn't know if that ever was going to go anywhere, or that kind of just petered out, or...
I don't know. I don't know how far along anybody ever got in terms of writing that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the book. There was sort of like when Volume 1 came about, there wasn't a wiki.
Right.
Yeah.
And now there is a wiki, so it's like there's all that information is available on a regular basis. You can get that.
Just print it out, staple it, bag and board it.
So and they don't. It's not like it's a. I don't know that it would pay for itself.
Yeah, gotcha.
So then it becomes, what are you doing this for? Who does this benefit? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that it really benefits much of anybody.
So it sounds like it's kind of risky at this point to put something out like that.
Yeah, I just think it would be a lot of effort on people's parts, and I don't really feel like I need to have people do a lot of work for no reward.
Yes, yeah, gotcha.
You know, I mean, if I solicited it, everybody got their stuff, and then the numbers came in, it's like, well, there's no way this is gonna pay for itself.
Yeah.
Then that's terrible, you know?
Right.
And it's like, you did all this stuff, and now it's not even gonna see print.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yep. That's good points. This was kind of a fun question that we had talked about in a previous FINcast, and I'm kind of interested in seeing what your take would be on this. So if the market was like it was in 1993 again, when, you know, you could pretty much put anything out and you would, you know, get decent sales on it. With today, where the comic book is at now, what kind of offshoot book would you like to see, like Savage Dragon offshoot? And if you could pick a team that, you know, you would be able to afford to pay them, what would that team be on the book?
Not what I expected. Way to put him on the spot, Craig.
You can throw some tough questions here and there.
It's always hey, wouldn't it be wonderful to, you know, it's like, put Kirkman and Otley to work on doing a book for me, for crying out loud. You know, I mean, but it's anytime you start doing that sort of stuff, then it's okay. Now you're not doing something else.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I would like to see Eric Canetti do some stuff with my characters. I'd like to see a lot of guys who are doing a lot of cool books doing stuff. You know, it's like, geez, man, there's some good guys out there. But if they're doing that, then they're not doing something else. And I kind of like there's something else's that they're doing. I think at this point, it would kind of make some sense to do an SOS kind of book.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they exist. And they're not, and it's sort of, there's these implied adventures going on that we don't really get to see.
Yeah.
That to me makes sense. I'd like to see more Deadly Duo stuff. And that's, I can't, you know, Super Patriot, if that worked. And some of the others, I don't know that some of the others even make much sense. Like, I know Star's out there somewhere, but at this point, it's like the dude's got to be old, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just face it. Even if he was 20 years old when he started, he's in his mid 40s now.
Yeah, right.
How long is he going to be sitting there kicking ass? You know, at this point, I don't really have William and Rita out there doing superhero stuff, just because I feel like they're going to be past the point where that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
You're going to throw your back out.
That would make a hell of a comic.
I'd buy a Savage Dragon Presents book.
Yeah, but you're not everybody.
I'm not.
And you're not enough people.
But it would be 1993. Everyone would love it. We'd all love it.
1993, all of it. You know, continue. I would have continued Freak Force if things worked.
Yeah.
but they didn't.
Where would that be now?
Yeah, who knows?
Do you look back at some of that stuff now and be like, "Oh, I canceled that book because it only sold, 30,000 copies or something."
It only sold 10 times what everything else did. Yeah, no, it's crazy, but in that case, Vic was ready to.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do anymore, and so it was like, okay, am I gonna find somebody else who will do this? And will it be any good? And how much of a headache is this going to be? And what are those numbers going to be like?
Yeah, I just
like, it's not. It's just taking up too much time anyway. So
some of those books though is funny when you look back though, and it's like, we're going to do Ninja Turtles in black and white because we're not going to get the numbers, or Vanguard, Ethereal Warriors, or whichever one it was that was in black and white, and it's like you probably look at those numbers that it sold then, and you're just like, my God.
Yeah,
amazing.
There's still better numbers than we're getting on stuff now, but it's the math still didn't add up at that point.
Yeah,
So we've found ways to make that math work a little better than it used to.
Yeah, I hear that. We recently saw on Facebook, and I don't know if it's recent, I guess within the last 6 months, there was like some kind of real quick image that was put up of somebody in like a Savage Dragon costume. I think it was like a wrestler, and I'm not big into wrestling, so forgive me, but it looked like it was something with like a little Savage Dragon, either short movie or something. Is that something you can give us any details on, or is that
not really.
I didn't think so. It was worth a try.
Yeah, I there's just certain stuff that I'm like, all right, I'm not really at liberty to.
Gotcha.
Fair enough.
Worth a try.
About this, it's there's weird stuff that goes on.
Oh, I imagine.
Just put it that way and just go. Sometimes people want to do things that are, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
I don't know what to say other than we'll see what happens with that.
Nice.
I hope to see more of it myself. So
cool. And we always ask this, but any new updates on the Ant comic or anything else in the pipeline that you can share? Or
at this point, I'm so under the gun on Dragon, and I've got a harebrained scheme coming up on Savage Dragon that hopefully will work out.
Ooh.
Well, it's a really weird kind of. People are doing these special variant covers for this or for that.
Yeah.
I've been going to this hamburger place in the East Bay called Oscars, and I'm talking to the owner about possibly doing an Oscars variant of Savage Dragon, which would just be here's Malcolm and Maxine at Oscars and hanging out, and then an adventure happens, and then do a cover that's exclusive to this hamburger joint.
Nice.
It's like, okay, that'll be really weird, but and then people will be able to get it from me at conventions, whatever. But anyway, that's something I've been kind of kicking around with him, and he seems like he's into it. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's shutting down. He's it's
going to be like a salad joint or something.
Something like that's happening. The owner's basically to a point where he's like, I've been doing this for this many years, and that's enough.
Yeah, and now some corporate salad place
don't
moves
need
in.
to do this anymore. And then he's totally. He owns the building, so it's somebody else coming in. It's not like
they're driving him out.
It's not like they're pushing him out.
Yeah,
he's deciding I don't want to do this anymore. So which is fine. But it screws me up.
Have you been working out of there a lot recently? Or?
Yeah, I work out of there pretty much every week.
You just buy like a burger and sit there for a few hours?
Yeah. He's been totally great, and just just lets me just kind of hang out for a while and
Do you get any gawkers?
occasionally, and there's times where I'll have people over. It's like, hey, I'm going to be at Oscars, so come on over and we'll hang out.
That's
So
cool.
it's fine, and there's really there's a middle period where it's lunchtime and there's a rush, but I'd be sitting there eating a burger at lunchtime anyway. So
Yeah.
and the rest of the time it's not like it's so terrible that I'm taking up the table.
So where are you gonna go when they close? Back to Starbucks?
I don't know, because I've got what it is that I take my son to school in the East Bay,
Yeah.
and so when it's my turn, then that's where I go, and then my wife takes him the rest of the time, but she needs a break. She can't do it every single
Right.
day. She's like, can you just take him once a week so I can go swimming? It's
Yeah.
like, all right, fine, let's do that.
So I assume you're not drawing twice up at Oscars.
Oh, I am.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Does it take up the whole table?
It's a sizable piece of paper, but it's not as crazy big as you think when you actually start putting it on real furniture and real tables.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're taking up a good sized hunk of that table, but there's still table left over. You're still fine. So it works out. But yeah, that's the size I work at this point. So that doesn't change just because I'm sitting in a coffee shop as I did today, or sitting at Oscars as I'll be doing tomorrow.
He draws that big on airplanes, at cons.
I don't draw this big on airplanes.
Oh, no.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It is actually too big for an airplane. So when I do some traveling, which I'll be doing later, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work things. I may just be sitting there doing layouts for issues or something, just so that I've got something done. But yeah, it's too big, and unless it's a local convention, I don't take the artwork to conventions either, just because it means packing. It means I would have to check my baggage.
Yeah.
And I usually don't check my baggage when I travel.
Yeah. I don't blame you, because then they lose it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you lose it, you lost, your livelihood or
Yeah.
your the work that you're working on.
Definitely.
It's like, well, that's no good. So if I can do work on the plane, I love traveling, because I usually do get a lot of work done on planes. But that's more difficult when you start doing this.
Gotcha. And I think just lastly, congrats on your exhibition at the Cartoon Art Museum. That must have been a thrill to see your kind of art, your life's work kind of hanging up.
It is kind of cool to be able to do that, because not everybody gets to do that. It was kind of interesting or weird that we just had an image expo,
Mm-hmm.
and the after party was at the Cartoon Art Museum.
Oh, was it? That's awesome.
And here's my art up at the Cartoon Art Museum.
It's still up?
Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
up.
it got extended, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, oh, that's cool that it's there, but it's kind of weird that it's there at the same time.
Why is that?
Well, just because it happens to be an image stuff, and then it happens to be the image expo.
Yeah.
And, I'm sitting there hanging around with a bunch of people.
Around your
and
art.
Here's my art. It's
Yeah.
like show and tell. And it's a little unusual in that when I'm there, that's not usually what's going on.
Well, and it's kind of neat. It must be neat just to kind of see people's reaction when they're kind of looking at your pages, and it's up there like fine art, It's
I can't believe how big this is.
Yeah.
Because I've got stuff from
The twice up pages.
It really, yeah, it runs. It's all over the place. It's like there's some stuff that's old, and then it starts with issue 1, and then goes all the way to issue 200. So it's all about the whole series.
So it's specifically Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
So it's not in your Marvel stuff or any
No,
Savage Dragon. Interesting.
Yeah, it's that. And so it's kind of cool that it's all that, and then but because it's running the whole thing, and because it's all 200 issues, or representative sampling of 200 issues, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
There gets to be big and small, and here's this change, here's that change, here's how things go from here to here. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's really neat. So I think we've talked to you for quite a bit, and I'm sure you want to go eat your dinner. It's getting to be that time.
Yeah, it's going to be that time.
I wanted to thank you for joining us. It's always awesome to have you on and to pick your brain.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Erik.
Yeah, guys. Seriously, at any time, don't feel like you're imposing here, because it's like I don't get that at home. So there's not a lot of dragon talking on here, so it's kind of nice to be able to have there be some of that, because there isn't a lot of it around here.
Cool.
So
we can bring you on as our 4th host.
There you go. I'll be asking questions of your other dudes. So really, what'd you think of me, huh? I was cool, right?
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks again, and it's like I said, it's always a pleasure.
Oh,
all right.
Is 105 anytime soon? Real quick.
I'm still working on it.
All right.
It's not done.
So good. Being 3 weeks late on 204 isn't gonna kill us.
Yeah, it's sorry. Sorry it didn't work out that way. But yeah, I'm working on it now. It'll be wrapped up here very shortly.
Cool.
And then on to the next one. So
looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you. Take care.
Sure. Talk to you later.
See you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
It's always good to have Erik on.
Definitely. I think that's, of course, the highlight of
doing this.
Doing this is getting to talk to the man himself, getting to pick his brain.
Yeah.
Always fun. I mean, where else, what other medium can you sit there and talk to the creator of, the work, like you can't do that with TV or, you know what I mean, have a podcast.
It's definitely a lot harder.
Yeah.
And the access we get, we're spoiled, really.
Yeah.
Lucky us. So next episode we should be talking about Savage Dragon 105, and unfortunately
205.
205. I keep doing that. And unfortunately we don't have Raven and his tossed tones to serenade us, but I will do my best.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it. Savage Dragon 205. All hell breaks loose at the senior prom. Short and sweet, thank God.
Was that part of the solicitation?
No, that was.
Well, yeah, prom.
Yep, it's prom.
You've seen what's that? That cover's got like Malcolm in a suit, like jumping on top of some mutant-looking guy, right?
It's got a really weird. I say weird. It's got a really like pastel palette,
like a muted pastel,
like mauve.
Mauve.
No, it should be a good issue, especially with all what's going on in 204. A lot of stuff going on. And if the next few covers in a row or anything to go by, things are going to be pretty interesting for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's about time to wrap this episode up.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Well, hopefully we'll see you guys again within the month with 205.
205.
See you later.
See ya. The Savage FINcast is a member of the Gutter Trash Podcast Network, which can be found at guttertrash.net. The Savage FINcast is part of the Comics Podcast Network, which can be found at comicspodcast.com. Also, find us on YouTube at youtube.com/user/SavageFinCast.